The Secrets of Mystery Babylon. It sounds like a reality show, and it's going to be a reality, all right, but not the kind that any of us want to see. Now, every Christian on the planet needs to know who this entity is, because the Bible tells us to come out of her or share in her judgments. But she's been holding on to her secrets. Now, a lot of ink and a lot of film have been expended on this topic of who is Mystery Babylon. But you know, for everything I've read and seen, nothing is 100% satisfactory to me. Something has been missing. And there is a logical and shocking reason that all those previous views may not be the right ones. But our top 30 rated YouTube channel is not just a YouTube channel. It's a community, and I know we can decipher the scriptures together. So let's get started. I think you know how this works. I will get us started with my thoughts in this video, then hopefully you can jump in and provide your thoughts. That's how we do it here, so hang on for another exciting video. Now first, we need to remember from our last video that there are two women of Revelation, the woman clothed in the sun and this harlot. The harlot has a number of secrets we need to uncover, but the first is no secret at all. She is also called Mystery Babylon, because that is what she has written on her forehead, just as the mark of the beast is written on the foreheads of the beast's followers. And on her forehead, a name was written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots and of abominations of the earth. Now, the term mother of doesn't mean her offspring, but it is an ancient Middle Eastern term for the largest or the greatest of something, kind of like the mother of all battles in this cricket poster. So the harlot is the largest harlot and abomination on the earth. And as we explained in the last video on Revelation 12, these two women are best explained in the book of Galatians. These women are two covenants, one proceeding from Mount Sinai, bearing children who are to be slaves. She is Hagar. Now this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia and corresponds to the present Jerusalem, for she is in slavery with her children. But the Jerusalem above is free. She is our mother. Galatians 4:24 through 26. As we can see, these two women are two covenants, two religious systems. The one is a works-based righteousness, the other a righteousness by faith. One is Ishmael. One is Isaac, the son of promise. One is associated with Arabia and the earthly Jerusalem, and one comes out of heaven and is the new Jerusalem. Hagar represents the mother of all worldly thinking. She is the first picture of the harlot of Babylon in the Bible. And if you remember, she gave birth to a son out of Sarah and Abraham's desperation to provide an heir. In the end times, the world will turn to an earthly savior out of its desperation. He will be the Antichrist. So let's take a step back and think about this. The harlot's first secret is that she will be a worldly, works-based religion. This may include Islam, Judaism, and possibly others, but one thing it won't include is a divine Son of God and his redemptive blood. There are several other pictures of the harlot of Babylon in the Bible. The second is Jezebel, the wife of Ahab, king of Israel. After marrying Ahab, she established a state religion, purged the prophets of the Lord, and provided government support for at least 450 prophets of Baal and maybe 400 prophets of Asherah. After Elijah's great victory over the prophets of Baal and Ashereth on Mount Carmel, she tried to kill him. So this completely supports the false religious aspect of the harlot. And notice it's a state-run religion and one that persecutes those that worship the true God, Yehovah. The third Old Testament picture of the harlot of Babylon is Gomer, the wife of the prophet Hosea. Hosea was instructed to take a wife out of prostitution. And after having children by Hosea, she returned to this trade, which was that of being a temple prostitute associated with idolatry. So all three Old Testament pictures of the harlot of Babylon were associated with idolatrous worship. Gomer's words on why she returned to prostitution are very interesting. I will go after my lovers, who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink. This is similar to the mark of the beast in the future and the provision it will provide in the end times. Jezebel is referenced in Revelation in the letters to the seven churches, specifically in the letter to Thyatira. We read, the woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess, and she teaches and leads my bondservants astray, so that they commit acts of immorality and eat things sacrificed to idols. Interestingly, this is also a reference to food and provision. So another secret of the harlot is that she seems to have a relationship to this mark of the beast and causes those who follow this false religion to take the mark. So now that we have a grasp on this understanding, let's return back to the primary passage in Galatians. Galatians tells us that Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia. We know Moses lived in Midian in Arabia when he saw the burning bush, and he was told to return there, and that is where Mount Sinai was. Joel Richardson's outstanding book and video series, Mount Sinai in Arabia, is available if you want to learn more about this mountain, Jabal al-Lawz, and it is found in ancient Midian that many are suspecting is the real Mount Sinai. This view of the harlot being both Arabia and connected to the Jerusalem that is on earth really answers a lot of questions. And it brings together a lot of conflicting theories and ideas all into one. If you believe in an Islamic Antichrist like I do, the children of Hagar are Ishmael, who are approaching God with a works-based righteousness. Or if you believe in a New World Order headed by the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, they are potentially relying on a works-based Jewish righteousness. The papacy is also works-based. So all three of these groups are works-based and may be related in the future. Might the coming final world empire be a combination of all these groups? In Nebuchadnezzar's dream of a metal statue, the final kingdom is made up of two materials, iron and clay. In our first video about the statue, we showed how the Iron Kingdom is the Islamic Caliphate and not Rome. Click on the banner if you haven't seen it yet, because this is a fundamental understanding that you have to understand the end times. In a follow-up video, we showed the clay is most likely either the UN or possibly Western powers, or maybe even the papacy. So, an empire that is a combination of an Islamic caliphate and Western powers, and again, maybe even the papacy, that is our opinion of what is most likely to come. So the third secret of the harlot is that she sits on many waters, many people, tribes, languages, and nations. She is made up of diverse groups. So let's see what else Revelation says about this harlot. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, desert. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns. We see the harlot in the wilderness or the desert. This is very consistent with Arabia. And because she sits on many waters, it's the seashore of the desert, as in this picture. Let's keep that in mind. Isaiah the prophet tells us this exact thing. Now the harlot is also called Mystery Babylon, as we had already seen. And in Isaiah's prophecy in Isaiah 21, where the famous quote, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon," comes from, we see the vision opens with these words, "The oracle concerning the wilderness or desert of the sea." The same two things, a desert and a sea. So here is the harlot's fourth secret. She is in a desert by the seashore. And we see the harlot riding on the beast. In a previous video, we learned that the beast is a three-part entity, a kingdom, a king, who is the Antichrist, and a demon. And this beast is Islamic in origin. So the harlot rides the Islamic kingdom that is coming. If you want to learn more about this, click on the banner when it appears. And the harlot rides this beast. This means that at least initially, the beast promotes this false religious and political system. This is an important point to remember as well. So here is the fifth secret of the harlot. The coming Islamic beast will promote her to the world. We also learn that the harlot wears purple and scarlet. The woman was clothed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. Revelation 17:4. This is a direct Old Testament reference to the veil of the tabernacle. You shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet material and fine twisted linen. This is similar to the veil that tore upon Jesus' crucifixion, granting believers access to the Holy of Holies. This veil tore that kept men separated from the Father. So the reestablishment of blasphemous temple worship during the end times represents the putting back up of this veil, again separating men from God. And initially, this seems like part of the religious aspect of the harlot, a religious keeping its worshipers behind a veil and unable to see the true God. The harlot also seems to have an economic component to it as well. The merchants of the earth had become rich by the wealth of her sensuality. This word translated sensuality is the Greek word streinos, meaning luxury or materialism. So the harlot will become a consumer-driven, luxury-desiring system. And the harlot is associated with a city. The woman you saw is the great city, which reigns over the kings of the earth. So what city is this? In Revelation, the term great city applies to Jerusalem. And it is the city from which the Antichrist will reign by sitting in the temple of God. And we are told she corresponds to Jerusalem. But what about some of the other cities that have been suggested? We've already seen that the harlot is in a desert. Jerusalem kind of qualifies by being near a Judean wilderness. And certainly cities like Rome, New York, and Moscow that are sometimes considered as the harlot city, well, they don't qualify at all. Now, I must admit, Rome is a popular choice. Its popes and cardinals were purple and scarlet. And it is the city ruling the world in John's day, as per Revelation 17:18. All of that is true. However, what John saw was a vision of the future, not his day. And the verses surrounding verse 18 about the city ruling the world all refer to the future and the 10 horns giving the Antichrist their power in the future. It is a future event, not John's day. So the ruling city has to be future also. And of course, the desert aspect of the vision just seems to rule out Rome completely. The USA and New York really have no specific scriptural basis other than the USA is a nation that spreads its materialism and secularism throughout the world. But the USA isn't a religion or in a desert. In fact, the USA isn't a false religion. It is the greatest mission-sending nation in the history of the world. So it's not a false religion at all. And also the USA is not drunk on the blood of the martyrs. Jesus called Jerusalem as responsible for that. The blood of all the prophets shed since the foundation of the world. Luke 11:50. This city is also a port city. It's on the water. Every shipmaster and every passenger and sailor, and as many as make their living by the sea, stood at a distance and were crying out as they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, "What city is like the great city?" Revelation 18:17 through 18. This seems to also rule out Jerusalem and possibly also Rome and Mecca. That leaves us at quite a quandary. But I think the problem we have is that everything that will be in place in the end times might not be built yet. That's right. What I'm saying is the city that exists in John's vision might not be complete yet. Let's see what I mean. Let's return to Galatians again and see what it says about Saudi Arabia. Now this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia and corresponds to the present Jerusalem, for she is in slavery with her children. Galatians 4:25. This verse says Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia. It only corresponds to the Jerusalem of Paul's day. And as many of you know, Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi prince, is planning to build a giant city on the Red Sea in this region to be known as Neom. It will be independent of the rest of the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It is planned as the hub of commerce, knowledge, and power. And look at the picture. As you can see, it is a desert by the sea. This is important. And look at the size of this city. I mean, it's really more like a small country. It will include the area where Mount Sinai, Jabal al-Lawz, is located in Midian. And look at how close it is to Israel and Jordan. Now, Neom hasn't been built yet, but when it is, it will meet the criteria of the harlot city perfectly. And it is only 250 miles to Jerusalem and kilometers from Eilat, which is Israel's southeasternmost city. Now, bin Salman has mentioned establishing a joint economic zone with Jordan and Egypt, and a number of Israeli companies are already talking about developing there. Might Neom become a joint city and capital of the coming Antichrist empire with Jerusalem in some kind of mega city-state? Well, only time will tell. But it is strange to mention Arabia and Jerusalem in the same Galatians verse. Maybe this is the answer. And if it is, it explains why Mystery Babylon has remained such a mystery. The entire city may not have been built yet. If we look at the world landscape only 10 years ago, this idea wasn't even possible. This shows why we should be patient in trying to understand everything until it is time. So based on all this information, what is the harlot? In my opinion, it's a false religious system tied to a world economic political system. And the beast uses it, allows it to ride to power, and then the beast destroys it. And the 10 horns which you saw, and the beast, these will hate the harlot, and will make her desolate and naked, and will eat her flesh and burn her up with fire. Why does the beast destroy and burn the harlot? Let's look at this from a religious basis first, then we'll look at it from a geopolitical basis. In terms of religion, the harlot rides the beast, but in many ways, the beast also utilizes this harlot religion to gain power as well. However, when the Antichrist finally sits in the temple of God and acts like he is God, he no longer wants the harlot religion around. He wants all the worship for himself. This is true regardless of whether it is primarily Islamic, primarily Judaic, primarily some kind of New Age religion. He wants the elimination of whatever this world religion or combination of religions is. Okay, second, why does the beast destroy the geopolitical element of the world system? Now, if the beast comes out of an Islamic empire, this might make some sense. Sharia law and Islam are almost out of the Dark Ages, and destroying the economic system of the world and the means of production will only improve the beast's power over the rest of the world. Islamic nations are much better prepared to live in harsh medieval conditions than Western nations. Now we come to a very important applicational point. The Bible tells us to come out of her or share in her plagues. Does this mean to not live in the area of Neom or Jerusalem? That seems pretty logical. If this is Mystery Babylon, those areas are going to be destroyed. But is it something broader? Does it also mean coming out of the world economic system so that we're prepared when that economic system is taken down by the Antichrist? Leave your thoughts on that particular point. I'd love to hear what you have to say or how you think it can be done. Okay, now you know my opinions about the harlot, but I'm sure many of you still consider the USA, and some may be thinking about Rome and some Mecca. I told you why I think these are less likely, so be sure to leave a comment about why you think I might be right or why I might be wrong. In our next episode on Revelation, we're going to learn how to flee from a dragon. We're going to learn about this second woman in Revelation 12, the woman clothed in the sun who flees from the dragon for 1,260 days into the wilderness. We're going to find out what that means, how it happens, and what we can learn from it, and maybe what we need to do. If you'd like to see that video, just click on the link right here and you can begin watching. If the link doesn't appear, that means it isn't published yet. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so that when that video comes out, you can begin watching. Until next time, this is Nelson.